Unlike Perry, my job is not dependent on my staying within my time frame, but as both Perry and my board members who are present here will tell you, it is certainly dependent on my staying under budget. But I will do my best to stay easily within my time frame. You know, last week, my children and their father attended the Choice Schools program that was here in Palm Beach County. And they came home with this huge plastic bag full of information about all the variety of schools. My son's about to go into middle school, and here are all the choices that are available to him for schools. And we're looking through all this information and asking all these questions about, well, what does this program mean, and what does that mean for high school? And if the school he likes is in Boca, how do I get him there? I live in Boynton. And what school is better than the others, and what do these things mean? And as I'm asking all these questions, my kid's father dropped the things in front of me and looks at me and he says, "Don't you know people?" He says, "How do you do this for thousands of kids in foster care, but you can't answer these questions about your own son?" And it certainly gave me pause, because I thought, I do know people. And I am responsible, not for thousands, but for a good number of kids in the foster care system. And I can't answer these questions. And it made me think about the work that's been being done here, about how do we answer these questions, a small group of people, answer these questions for what, although seems like a small population of kids in our area, is, as Justice Pariente referred to, a huge impact and a huge responsibility. So I wanted to first talk a little bit about who are the children that we serve here in Palm Beach County. There are approximately 900 children in out-of-home care in Palm Beach County, 915, I believe, as of yesterday's count. I do get these reports daily, as some of you know. 915 in out-of-home care. They're in foster homes, they're in group homes, some are with relatives or other family members or friends of the family. Approximately 45 new children enter out-of-home care each month in Palm Beach County. 87% of those have had fewer than 2 moves during their first year in care. Now, that's certainly a statistic that we like to brag about here, because it's a placement stability number that is probably higher than a lot of others in the state. We tend to top out on that measure. But again, as we referred to earlier, what it does tell you is that 13% have moved around way too much. And as much as we can brag about these 87%, what our real task is looking at what can we do about that remaining 13% to make sure that they don't fall into those cracks. Jennifer? The average length of stay for a child in out-of-home care now is 18 months. Just over half the children reunified with parents or returned to their relatives do so within 12 months. For youth that age out of care at age 18, they have had an average length of stay in out-of-home care of 24 months. This is one of those time is a matter of perspective. For instance, when you were 6 years old, you started counting yourself as 7 the very minute you were 6.5. You were almost 7. For those of you who, like me, have reached an older age, when you're 39, you don't consider yourself 40 until midnight of the day of your 40th birthday. And if you have the time on your birth certificate, you wait until the absolute hour you were born to declare yourself at the next age. And the life of a child, 18 months, 24 months, 12 months, is an eternity to spend in foster care. For those of us who are working with these kids, trying to make sure that we can help their families to get them reunified, or to make sure that their health care needs are being met, especially to make sure that their educational needs are being met, is no time at all. In the life of a case manager, 18 months is 18 visits with a child. How much can you impact in a child's life? All the things that a case manager has to touch in 18 short months. And not only just being responsible for that one child, but being responsible for upwards to 20 others as well as that one child. It's a tremendous task we have ahead of us for a tremendous impact for the short time that the child is with us. Of our kids in care, of the 915, 65% are school-aged. This is anything from a VPK program at 4 up until 12th grade. 29% are 14 to 17, which means 29% of our kids in care are about to become adults. They're about to finish their academic career, move on to post-secondary, move on to vocations. This is the critical time that a large part of our population rests in, and it is really the most difficult time to try to help them catch up on whatever they've come. Remember, most of our kids who age out have only been with us 2 years, meaning they came to us at 16. They didn't come to us at 5 where we have had their entire academic career to help them reach success. We've had 2 short years at a very, very critical point in time for their lives. Next. In terms of the action plan, so 6 months ago, we had this plan. We had the first summit. And once again, when we talk about timing, 6 months ago is a long time or a very, very short time. If you have a vacation coming up in 6 months, it is an eternity away, and you can literally hear each minute tick by on the clock. If somebody says to you, DeJuan, here's this education planning team, and we'd like you to try to resolve as best as you can all the barriers to helping kids succeed academically in Palm Beach County in 6 months, we might as well have pushed a freight train out and said, DeJuan, go catch that. And when you catch it, bring it back to us and tell us all about it. But in 6 short months, we were able to actually accomplish quite a bit. There were really 3 main issues that after the last meeting that we set out to fix. One was making sure that our kids were enrolled both timely and in appropriate education settings. The next was to make sure that the schools could identify who the youth in care were, so they first knew who to contact, and secondly, could meet some of the special needs that our kids in care come with. And then the third was information sharing. You know, what I find whenever I think about this, I think about those circle Venn diagrams that we had to learn about in school. And if you ever wondered why, here's why, because you have to follow this story, is why you learned about Venn diagrams in school. So there is one circle which represents what the case manager knows about a child. You have another circle that represents what the teacher knows about the child, and they overlap a very little bit. And then you have a circle of what the child thinks is going on, and that's an even smaller overlap. So there's 3 big pieces of information to this puzzle, of which we only know the tiniest little triangle of, because we don't have a way to effectively communicate with each other about what's going on. We are both tasked with tremendous responsibility for the child in front of us, but we don't really do a great job of communicating with each other. So as Mary pointed out earlier, we did a very good job of making sure that kids were enrolled timely in the proper educational setting. It's certainly, again, not a number. 88% in a lot of areas would be a number you would sit back on and say, you know what, good enough. The flip side to that is to say that 13% of them didn't. And that by any stretch is not ever going to be good enough. So there's still work to be done there. On information sharing, we got the salmon form. We all should have been wearing salmon today, which interestingly would have been easier for me to wear salmon than to wear pink. DeJuan was concerned about my wearing pink the other day. It's the salmon form. It identifies for the school that this is a child in care. So they understand that there's a case manager involved, that there'll be a foster parent involved, and there are some unique needs that go along with this child being in their school, separate from their general population. Information sharing. This was probably one of the larger tasks set out ahead of us. Right now, the school district staff is in the process of being able to flag students as members of the foster care population to track progress, track problems, be able to give that information in a feedback loop. And we've worked on that, and pretty much all the kids are successfully flagged. So that's the first step in being able to share that information, is that both sides of that coin know who the children are. And next, the court issued education release orders for all children in care. This prevents us from having to go and get releases and go back to court to get this information, to go back to the schools. We now have orders that will allow us to share this information freely. It gives us critical information, students' curriculum, teacher's name, attendance, special needs is all accessible to a case manager from the beginning. And some additional commitments and projects that we're working on, again, on a longer-term basis, is the Child and Family Connections Education Liaison. We've called her out several times, so I won't call her out yet again. We're offering specialized trauma training to key school staff so that they understand the needs of the kids who come into the system of care. And also education preparedness training to our case management organizations. Mary showed me that book right before I walked up here, and it's fabulous. I would love to put that in the hands of every case manager and every caregiver to give everybody in our community the tools they need to navigate the education system for our kids. So I guess I get to go home now and say, you know what? I do know somebody. I know a lot of people in this room. I know people who care about kids. I know people who want positive educational outcomes for kids. I know people who know how to get things done and who can get things done in a short period of time. And most importantly, I now know more people who can continue this work and to get this work done, who truly want to be teachers for every child in care.
Thanks, Judith.